Hi, I'm Veronica Manuel with Intelligent Tides, and I'm joined here today by Dr. Anastassia Lauterbach, who is a corporate governance and cybersecurity expert here to talk about artificial intelligence. Dr. Anastassia Lauterbach, thank you so much for joining me today.
Veronica, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, what is the impact of artificial intelligence and generative AI on cybersecurity?
Well, let's start why cybersecurity is a number one business topic. 10 years ago, digital assets made between 12 to 15% in the valuation of companies. When I speak about digital assets, I mean information, including, of course, data, intellectual property, information systems and networks, including all kind of edge devices, such as, for example, phones or small sensors. And digital assets imply knowledges of processes, how to move those assets around in a business. For example, the frameworks of data governance and all kind of compliance rules relating to regulation around data privacy, and at the end, cybersecurity. So 2013, 2014, 12 to 15% in the valuation of the entire businesses. We are talking about digital assets. And today, this number increased to 90%. So it's 90. And this is, of course, a huge number. And it's actually quite an interesting target for cyber criminals to go after. So criminals attack digital assets and create disasters in a couple of ways. Let me name the three of the major ways to damage businesses, and then we will jump into AI. So criminals, they steal data. As an example, Equifax, which is a large data company from the United States, had a data breach, and this breach created loss of 1 in 3 of Equifax customers. Then this data breach destroyed 33% of valuation of Equifax stock, and it resulted in a regulatory fine of 575 million US dollars, and lawsuits to date are 5 billion US dollars. And this is all because 143 million data records got stolen. So a huge impact from one single incident. Then another way to attack companies is in ransomware. Ransomware attacks obviously are on the rise. If you take Maersk, which is a global logistic company, they had such an attack, and it resulted in destroying of 300 million US dollars of revenues. And not just one single location was impacted. 80% of global ports, or 78% of Maersk ports, got impacted by this incident, which is, of course, a huge number. And finally, we have regulation. And in the case of cyber, it's not just one cybersecurity law for France or for the United States. All kind of federal laws exist, and then some branches of economy have their dedicated laws, like healthcare. Sometimes technologies on their own get their dedicated laws. For example, the Teddy Bear Act of California, it's about Internet of Things. So the rise of these regulations is obvious for obvious reasons. So we have all those attacks. And I predict that 5 years from now, the number of laws and regulations will double from what we have today. I don't know the exact number of what we have today, but most prominent regulations is about 180 around the globe. And this is something tremendously serious to consider if you are a business. By the way, size doesn't matter. Of course, if you are a Siemens or a GE, you will suffer an attack. But even if you are a smaller business, like a luxury bike business from Germany, Koblenz, they got a ransomware attack, and they could not ship, they could not really communicate with their customers, and they were truly on the verge of bankruptcy due to the cyber incidents. Why are we considering AI when we discuss cyber? AI is a technology family, and many technologies within this AI umbrella are used by cyber criminals. Obviously, technology per se is neutral. Great guys are using it, but bad guys utilize it too to their bad devices. And they attack because, for example, they can just increase the amount of information flooding the network for the denial of service attack, or they mimic the writing of a top executive like a CFO, demanding that someone in accounting transfer a certain amount of money to a certain account. Obviously, we know about the rise of deep fakes. So this is one of the technologies connected to generative AI. Sometimes we have fake identities, which might damage the prospects of your business and confuse, for example, your customer care. And sometimes synthetic data might intervene in the flow of your data stream and cause damages. For example, a self-driving car utilizing sensors might get confused, and the sensor might see, for example, a tree, and this is not a tree, but this is a person, and vice versa. So intruding into a data stream is something to be taken seriously, and this is, of course, can be mitigated with help of AI as well. But of course, with the rise of synthetic data, with the rise of AI, we will see more and more sophisticated behaviors from the side of cyber criminals. And I just can call every single business to stay vigilant and to truly invest into knowledge of AI and knowledge of cybersecurity.
Yeah, that was a very thorough analysis of how cybersecurity is impacted by AI right now. I was curious because you have a lot of expertise in AI, your knowledge about AI hallucinations. Could you explain a little bit why ChatGPT hallucinates?
Yes, just to say something about this technology. Obviously, GPT-3 was around in June 2020, so it's nothing which was born in November 22 when the world obviously discovered it. So for me, those large linguistic models, which we discussed on a daily basis, is a moment of democratization of AI. So out of sudden, the world knows that such thing exists, and we can really touch it. We can download it very simply and start using it, sometimes being excited about it and sometimes being bored or whatever. So first of all, generative AI is something which was born in 2014, and this is part of a larger family in machine learning called deep learning. And I'll give you one example to illustrate the bottlenecks of this technology, which is, by the way, the major stream to invest and the major technology family to develop all kinds of applications, including all those large linguistic models. So when the world was discussing ChatGPT and the world was preparing for the launch of ChatGPT 4, Financial Times published an article. It was mid-February 2023. And this article was titled Man Beats Machine at Go in Human Victory over AI. And obviously, when Leo Sedol lost against AlphaGo, that was a Sputnik moment for so many of us in the industry, and it was a Sputnik moment for a country like China, when they out of sudden understood, holy cow, we have here something which is really, really very powerful, and we need to kind of take care that this technology belongs to us and gives us some competitive advantages. So and then obviously February 23, and a man is winning over a machine, and it was not a world champion, it was an amateur player, and he used an advanced Go program called Kata Go, and he scored 14 out of 15 games. And he actually exploited a weakness in the system. And this weakness was that the machine could not comprehend the concept of a group. So obviously the machine was making all the moves, but the machine did not know what it was doing. So there was no understanding on what was going on this game board. And the human understood that, for example, dying of a group wasn't a concept a machine was familiar with. So he outplayed, outsmarted this machine, and this is how he won. And of course, you can fix this failure, but this is a very typical thing for deep learning models, the technology which is the base of Cat2Go. So the weakness is actually the issue around the distribution shift, so-called distribution shift in modeling. And let me explain what it is. So those models is very simplistically explained a collection of some points and some clouds. And when an application is within a certain narrowly defined domain, then everything is in order. For example, I am a radiologist. My work is augmented by AI, and I utilize AI to make me see in a better way whether there is some issue with breast cancer. So whether there is something which is not in order. So those cases are great. Machines score perfectly, and human eye is simply not built biologically for something what a machine can discover. I, by the way, read last week that even pigeons, the birds, are better than humans in discovering breast cancer, and they can be trained to do so. And it was an experiment in 2015 to train pigeons to identify anomalies in X-ray pictures of breast cancers. Very interesting. So it's not a property of intelligence, of human intelligence. It's just a property of how our eyes are built. And then obviously we need some associative learning to understand what is a normal thing and what is an anomaly. So when you stay within a very defined domain, then everything goes correctly. But when you kind of shift to the next level of a problem, the models get confused. And this issue was actually known before AI exploded as an industry and as a technology domain. It was known in a book which Marvin Minsky wrote in 1969. It was already described. And then Gary Marcus, who is a formidable AI researcher and practitioner, he wrote Algebraic Mind in 2011 and actually highlighted the same issue. But the luminaries of the industry did not want to listen to these voices of caution, so they just carried on, seduced by fantastic progress and actually highlights of AI applications. And actually, all those names you hear today, Lukun, Hinton, they were just carrying on. And now we have a situation when we sometimes ask ChatGPT something really complex and it gives us good answers. And sometimes it hallucinates. For example, my husband, who is a surgeon by training, asked whether he could do home surgery with some freshly baked pastries. And ChatGPT answered, "This is fantastic," and quoted an article from Science magazine, which obviously did not exist, and said that those pastries produced a very calming smell to keep the patient asleep. Obviously, in a kitchen, there is no someone who would do anesthesia for the surgery. And I am quite a disorganized person. I asked Bart, which is a cousin of ChatGPT from Alphabet, from Google, to just give me a list of whatever I've written in course of my life, and it produced two books I've never written. I mean, I was of course very pleased, but those books did not exist. And there is this kind of joke, which is a true story from Jan LeCun from Facebook. He was giving a public lecture quite recently about generative AI and conversational AI. And one woman approached him and she said, "Look, Jan, I'm using ChatGPT to write horoscopes." And he said, "This is a formidable use case. So AI is making stuff up." So obviously, of course, we use it for all kind of purposes, but we need to be very, very careful. And I like to compare those large linguistic models and what they cause across businesses with the market of coffee and chocolate. So when you look from the number perspective, then you see that premium chocolate, premium coffee really excel in performance, fantastic margins. And then obviously something really, really cheap, what you can buy in stores like, for example, Aldi in Germany, they have quite decent results. But everything in between is kind of squeezed and doesn't perform. So, for example, if you are a fantastic writer and you use those large linguistic models to help you to write, to maybe look for a synonym or for metaphor or whatever, then you are doing great. Or if you are really a shitty writer and you can't write at all, of course, what it generates will be better than what you can do. But everything in between, and this is where the majority of us muggles sits, is kind of shaky. And I think we need a new leap in technology to truly get there and to truly consume something which is safe, proven, and actually without hallucinations. And by the way, I love this word hallucination. It's quite a human word, and applying this to technology is just cute.
Yeah, that was great, and that was quite funny about how it hallucinated a response about being able to perform surgery with pastries. I have this question here about the economics of AI deployment. What do you think we should be regarding in terms of the economics of AI deployment costs? How the costs may benefit be outweighed by the benefits, for example? What's your opinion on that?
And so, look, I think that the playbook on how to launch and successfully run an AI-centric company. Now, I'm kind of, a part of those big tech companies which are AI-centric businesses. So the Alphabets, Amazons, Baidu's of this world. So, but just a formidable AI-centric company to run it. The playbook is still currently a work in progress. But what we can see now is that it's not the same playbook as this software as a service business. And this is actually just common sense. The cost for cloud for AI companies is actually around 25% of those companies' revenues. And one of the major driver is that AI works with rich data, for example, audio or video. This is not the same as some numbers from a data warehouse. Then you don't read from a database when you do analysis with machine learning, with deep learning. You have complex models, they have multiple layers, and every matrix in the layer does its own predictions. So this computational force just increases the demand for energy and increases the demand for cloud. So here we have the energy cost from one side, and then the storage cost for those rich media on another side. Then obviously to train edge cases, so all AI models have long tail. This is quite difficult. And we see cases like Tesla when they really generate data from real situations. So they have cameras, they really learn what is going on the streets. So all Teslas are equipped with those cameras. So obviously, this is a fantastic learning material for the machines from real life. If you are in a lab, then things might be clean and clear. But when you get into a real life, you get messy. And this messiness increases the cost for cloud, and this is one. Another thing is that obviously talent in these companies is something which is hard to come by. And real AI people, especially data scientists, not data engineers, they're quite expensive. And you need to build a cohort of loyal data scientists around your business, so who might not be employed 100% by your company, but who might contribute for one thing or another. And then everything which is around data. Do you have a healthy strategy to acquire data in a safe manner? Do you have a proprietary data bank? Obviously, you are Ocean, you understand all the properties of decentralized data markets, undistributed ledger. I'm a huge fan. So this is for me something to invest into and to go for by all kind of businesses. But before something like this gets built, you need a community of people who are capable to use the code and to deploy it in your own environment. If we talk about SaaS companies, traditionally the margins are like 60%. If you take businesses which are project related businesses, so every client is another client, you can't truly scale, then the margin might be 25%, 30%. I guess AI sits somewhere in between. Scalability of AI, even if we talk about algorithms pushing everything with brute force of mathematics, it's still not as easy as it sounds. And obviously, even if you get used to your data domain, you change a little bit, your data changes, and then the model needs to change. So this is something to consider. Finally, I think that the cost for getting a human into the loop will increase. And this is not just because it's the right thing to do to intervene in models, but this is because we have rising regulation in AI. And by the way, I'm not a fan of the European AI Act. I think that this is something which might destroy competitiveness of European nascent industry. And it actually gives a lot of power to big tech companies. Small startups don't have an option to, present the case before it was developed to some bureaucrats and ask for permission. This is something what can be organized in a larger business. So I am quite concerned about the prospects of the domestic or European AI industry. So, but you see, the economics, it's not as straightforward as it might sound if you look into presentations of some venture capitalists of startups.
Right. It's definitely contextual. And that was very cool to break it down between different segments of business size and types of businesses. So I wanted to ask you, because you are a corporate governance expert, are there some recurring themes of the mentees that you have when they deal with AI technologies?
So obviously, when I serve on boards, and I'm a business mentor. When I mentor executives, I usually mentor those who are not AI people. So they might work in technology businesses like Intel or IBM, but they are not data scientists. So they usually ask where are the low-hanging fruits to implement AI in my own business, and if I am IBM or Intel or SAP, how can I bring AI faster in a more elegant way to my businesses? So this B2B aspect, this is usually what I deal with. And actually, sometimes I just listen to those people, and I think that there's a danger to lose the why question. So AI is technology, and of course it will penetrate all domains of our society and all business functions, all professions, but still it's a tool. And the major question is, how are you competitive? And what problem do you try to solve? The first question is not how to implement AI, by why do I want to implement AI? Do I want maybe to reach cross borders to new suppliers and actually understand that they are viable business partners and they bring me advantages? So this identity resolution with help of a remote computational interface and with help of AI. So this is one case. Another case might be I am in entertainment industry. I use generative AI to age my actor or to make her or him younger, whatever. So it's another use case. So the question is always why. And then obviously, do you have a deep understanding of your corporate data, of your proprietary data, or do you have a data strategy? Do you have a data sourcing strategy? Does your infrastructure support what you want to do with AI? Obviously, if you have a very, let's say, antique infrastructure, it might be difficult, and then you need to reach out to some partners. Again, what kind of partners? And what is your ecosystem to implement AI? So those are the recurring themes. And the question number one is obviously a person, a leader who has to implement all of the above. So for me, ultimately, AI is not a thing of technology, it's a thing of leadership and leadership commitment, as nothing is very easy there.
Right. Yeah, so you did mention China briefly in an earlier part of this interview. I was wondering, what is your opinion on China with respect to artificial intelligence?
I was quite excited about the progress 2 years ago. What I am currently noticing is that there are some perils if you limit certain domains of usability, like searching for the numbers 8 and 9 on the internet. So those are forbidden numbers. In China, so you just deteriorate how those models might perform as you limit the data set and you try to include certain biases into your data set. Obviously, face recognition technology is probably number one in this geography. The question is always, do you want face recognition for what? And I'm even not going into this dictatorship versus democracy because different democracies have very different answer on what they do with face recognition. For example, if you walk through Berlin, I mean, this is unheard of and unseen. So obviously Berlin, which used to be a divided city, new Stasis and all kind of spying after neighbors, after families. So those scars of a socialistic past are still quite deep, and this is why something like face recognition on German streets wouldn't be anything which we will see tomorrow. If you are in London in a coffee shop, you might be somewhere on screen, and obviously your name wouldn't be interesting. But what would be interesting is your facial expression, because maybe some companies will teach a machine to recognize your emotions. So obviously, UK is a democracy, Germany is a democracy, very different answers. So obviously, China puts a lot of money and a lot of resources to be number one in different fields of AI. I think they're excelling in certain medical fields for obvious reasons. For example, you have 20,000 people in China and only one eye doctor. So you need to do something with telemedicine and AI just to take care of this population, which is aging with the same rates as many other countries. But I am quite concerned that the geopolitical divisions produce a new Cold War over the hot tech, and it will actually deteriorate the prospects of countries in between of the US and China. So, and Europe is obviously in the middle. And it's a huge question mark whether Europe will be always associated with the United States. And decide against deploying technologies from China. It's still a question mark. Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is not quite so. So I think we will see a lot, and unfortunately, we will see a lot of decoupling and actually fragmentation, even in basic internet technologies. But the jury obviously is out. I hope it answers some of your question.
Yeah, definitely. There's always going to be some element of geopolitical tension around who has the best technology and for what purpose could it be used. Of course, AI is intensifying that tension, not only in China versus other countries, but as you said, between the US and Europe as well, and other interests therein. So tell us about your book on AI that sold 35,000 times in 2018. Congratulations. Quite a feat. And so, given that you didn't write Harry Potter, what was behind all of this success?
So I just think that it was very timely when AI just started to surface as a technology. And actually, really, it wasn't Harry Potter, and I would need to update it heavily. But it was very well structured. So it talked about AI as a tech family. It said why AI came surfaced the way it did, why there was AI winter when people first invested heavily into the technology and they got disappointed. So the investment stream dried up. And it very systematically addressed the issue of data, then the infrastructure, then the levers of competitiveness to be successful as an AI business. It went through all large technology companies dealing with AI and why they do so. It touched on major drivers in their success, including semiconductors and the availability of proprietary data, and how they actually structured and built the data centers to power AI. And it went into the industries, into policy aspects and geographical aspects of this technology. So it was more or less quite an encyclopedic overview, quite brief, but very broad on what AI was and was not. And this is, I guess, why many large institutions like United Nations or even NATO went after it. And I was very, very pleased and surprised that it grew as it went. But obviously, I'm doing another project now, which so my ambition is actually to get the knowledge of AI into 1 million households by the end of 25. But I will disclose more about it on December 31st.
Oh, wow. Very cool. I guess we'll have to be on the lookout for that. So, for all of our viewers, look out for December 31st, the end of 2023, to be able to find Dr. Lauterbach's work about bringing AI into the household. Um, Anastassia, I had a great time speaking with you today. You came across as very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate you speaking with us.
Thank you, Veronica, and I'm a huge fan of Ocean and Ocean Foundation, and just keep great work.
Awesome. Guys, let us know what you thought about this video in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this in the future.